Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody this morning. West Grey Council meeting of July the 8th. And before we start any of the formal proceedings of the meeting, wondered if you could rise and take a moment of reflection with me, please. And Ashley, if there is anybody joining us online, can you give them how to participate virtually, please? Snowball.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Eccles, before I begin, at any point, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the ID for this meeting, which is 891-5626-2480. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance, please send a chat message to West Grey Communications and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you, Ms. Noble. Number 3 on our agenda. I'm going to ask, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or interest? Any of the members? Seeing none, it does arise, it can be declared at any time. Delegations and presentations. I don't believe we have any this morning, Jamie. Public meetings, we have none. Comment period. On our agenda, we do have 10 minutes for comment period, 2 minutes per person. We don't have anybody in the chambers this morning. Is there anybody online that would like to make a comment on anything on the agenda? Seeing none. None. Thank you, Ashley. And we'll move down to number 7. We have 3 sets of minutes from council, the regular council meeting on June the 17th. At a public meeting on June the 17th as well too, for planning, and we had a special council meeting dealing with budget on June 24th. Those 3 minutes have been there. Do I have somebody to move those for acceptance? Deputy Mayor Hutchison and Councillor Townsend. Thank you, Doug. Tom, any errors or omissions, questions on those? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Committee and board reports. We have 4 or 5 in the package. In reverse order, we have the Grey County Council highlights, Suggy Municipal Airport, the Durham BIA, each AGM on May, West Grey Public Library minutes from May 21st, and the Smart Board meeting minutes from May the 16th. We have somebody to move to receive those. Councillor Forrester Scott and Councillor Shea. Jeff, thank you. Any questions, comments on any of those? And I'll call the question. All those in favor receiving those? Any opposed? That's carried. Correspondence. We have a number in our package, and 3 have been flagged by by staff that need direction. So we'll start with those ones. 9.1.1, correspondence from the West Grey Public Library Board. And I believe that they're looking for an assessment or something of the Newstead Library, the building assessment. Anybody want to comment on that? Any board members? Go ahead, Doug.
Just to, I guess, clarify, in the spring, there was some ice damage to the back roof of the library in Newstead, which caused some roof damage and some water damage. In the process of getting quotes on that to repair it, we've had continued some continued water damage with the heavy rains and stuff that we've had. So we are asking council if the municipality would at this time look to assess that building, and would we be better off relocating that facility to another municipal facility within the village of Newstead to accommodate the library, and then subsequently maybe this property downtown could be declared an asset that could be sold. So it's just we're starting the process of asking the question, where do we put the dollars? Do we fix up the existing building downtown, or do we look at maybe doing some renovating at the community center to accommodate the library there? So that's basically in a nutshell what the board's looking for.
Go ahead, Joy. Councillor New.
Thank you. I guess I'm kind of the hardcore kind of person, but with amalgamation, we had 4 libraries. If the Newstead Library is in a state of replacement, I'm not just too sure, other than the Newstead Town Hall, where else you could relocate the library. So is it worth relocating or even replacing based on the usage in Newstead? Like with Normanby and Durham still in place, would that accommodate the needs of the people in West Gray? It's just a thought, putting it out there.
Part of the board's rationale would be if the municipality deems it suitable to relocate to the community center and do something there, they could probably enhance more services in Newstead because they'd have more space because of the they would be attached to the hall there in Newstead and everything, and maybe that would allow them to enhance and do more programs because they'd have a bigger space in order to do programs like that. The library would be one part, but they'd have access maybe at times to use the community hall. So just a thought.
Anybody else? Michelle, you want to jump in on this one?
Yes, I'd be delighted to. Good morning, Council. I have had some preliminary discussions with the library CEO, and to Councillor Noon's point, we do want to look at usage. We have begun a preliminary building condition assessment without bringing engineers in, but Manager Botello and his team have worked with one of our staff members to look at historically where we're at with that building. It's a bit like, how much do you invest in a used car before you determine that it's not worth investing? And I'm not saying it's not, but we need to do that assessment. I think we need to tie that into how that facility is currently being used. Right now, it's 12 hours a week on how often it's open. And as I think we all know, libraries have evolved in how they program and what they do anymore. So are there innovative ways to provide services to the residents in that geographic area that might be a different way of doing that? So if it's council's wish, I think it makes sense to not only look at the building condition assessment, but do some analysis relative to usage and potentially, as Councillor Townsend suggested, if that building were surplus, what the revenue might be for selling that versus, if we needed improvements or needed to add an addition. I think there's an opportunity here to say, what are the long-term outcomes that the library wants to achieve in that? And are there other ways of achieving those outcomes rather than just investing in a building that may be past its service life for this municipality, not generally, but for our needs.
Okay. Also got the fire hall. Is there a suggestion that the library can go up there? Councillor Hutchison.
I think this discussion is not a new discussion. I believe it's been kicked around for a few years, back even when I was on the board. My thoughts are, if it's only open 12 hours a week, that maybe the library board should look at creative ways to get 12 hours of service into Newstead, and I'm not sure whether that means like how much programming goes on in Newstead. I haven't been following that closely, but as far as, is it something that can be brought in and served, like set up a couple 6-hour sessions or something to equate to that? I think there's creative ways, and especially with the libraries changing the way they are these days, that there's ways of looking at it. So I'd be interested in hearing what they think going forward may be a way of solving that issue.
I just wanted to ask staff, is there still a van in the parking lot here that delivers books? Yeah. Instead of people going into libraries, as you said, Doug, evolving, I know that you go online, punch it in. That was the idea with this van, that central repository, but a couple of days of the week, the van would take books when you could pick them up that you wanted to read or research with or whatever. And anyways, still doing the same. Can't be doing it that speed just because we always did it that way. Is that correct, Madam CEO? Right. But in the meantime, I think this request is for doing an assessment on the building, and that's what they're looking for. Do you have anything that would cover on that to give direction, Jamie? You might.
Through miracles, yes, I do. That in consideration of correspondence received on June 20, 2025 from the West Grey Public Library Board respecting a request to evaluate the Newstead branch building to identify any potential issues and provide recommendations for necessary maintenance, repairs, or replacements. Council directs staff to bring forward a report on the usage of the Newstead branch and the results of a building condition assessment.
I think that pretty much covers what the request is. Does anyone want to move that, Jeff? Thank you. Councillor Shea will move that directive, and Councillor Hutchison vote to second that. Any further questions or comments on this? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That will be carried. All right. 9.1.2. Durham BIA budget for 2025. Huh. I thought it was 2026. They were getting this in early to us. This is, the budget comes out after their AGM, which we had the minutes there earlier. I think we need a motion to receive, approve. Sorry. Get the right language. Thank you, Jamie. Doug? Move that. We've got a motion to approve. And do I have a seconder? Scott, Councillor Forrester. There was no variance. There is a amount that we collect, if I'm not I'm correct on that, Gary, and that was in our 2025 budget set, and this is just how the BIA is going to use it. All right. Any other questions or comments on the budget? Jeffrey?
I think, Doug, you're still our rep on the BIA. I just think it's commendable that the BIA is taking money that they have on hand and committing it to beautification and summer programming. So I just wanted to commend them for taking that initiative.
Yeah, and I think the focus in the past, as somewhat since I've been on there, is they always try to set a little bit aside because we talked about the big dig that potentially someday that the downtown Durham would be upgraded, the streets upgraded, and the infrastructure, but they've sort of figured that it's been an ongoing thing that really hasn't happened, and who knows when it's going to happen. So they're starting to maybe focus a little bit more on trying to do something with beautification and a little different focus. So, and Michelle, our CEO, has been at their meetings and give them some food for thought. So I think they're trying to change the directive a little bit and maybe not worry about the big dig down the road, but try to do something now. So yeah, they're changing and it's a work in progress. So anyways, that's where they're at.
Very good. And we have a motion on the floor. No other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Moving right along. 9.1.3. We have correspondence from residents on Hutton Hill Road regarding speeding concerns. That was in our package. How do you want to deal with this, or anybody have any questions on this? Doug, Councillor Townsend.
Just wondering, and I guess I should have maybe asked this question or sent it in earlier. Just wondering if we have any traffic counts or any speed studies that have been done out there as a municipality, just to kind of get us a handle on what we're up against. And then the other side of that is probably something that our local police force should have a look at too. And we had that committee at one time that looked into traffic calming devices and that sort of thing to kind of maybe slow the traffic down in any ways we can.
Michelle, please.
Thank you. I did speak with Director Aitken the other day about this. There are a couple of pieces on there. He has been talking to the police station. Councillor Townsend, as you suggest, I do think we do not have traffic counts at this, but I would recommend that we come back with a report to council so we can make have an approach to how we handle this, because and we need some empirical data to look at that. There is a motion and we do know we need to get back to council on broader traffic calming measures. And I think all of these pieces are intersected. And if it's council's wish, I would recommend that we come back with a fulsome report and tying it into other initiatives related to traffic calming, which I'd like to get back by early fall if I could at the latest.
Any other questions or thoughts on this? Doug? Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, when I first read this, I was curious what the speed limit was on there, because I think on Douglas Street, I think it already is 50 or 60. I should know because I biked around there, but I don't remember looking at the signs. But
50
I'm
or
not.
60 kilometers. You're not that young anymore.
No, I'm not going that fast. Yeah, so it's there's already posted on Douglas Street, right? So yeah, but not around the corner. The other thing with this, and maybe it'll come out in a report, but there are all kinds of neat things coming out these days about ways of tracking speed and whatnot, like using not necessarily it's radar, but not necessarily ticketing people, which is out there right now too. Is radar, and then they send you a ticket if you're speeding, right? You don't even know they just catch you and send you the ticket. But there are ways of tracking the speeders, the number of speeders on the road, like getting data through the technology. So maybe something we need to look at in the future, that we could get a little more data using some of the modern technology. So, thanks.
Okay. Just to be clear, Hutton Hill Road is the one that runs up and over the hill, east and west. The second Hutton Hill and Douglas Street don't connect. Yeah. Yeah, you were thinking of the second. It just, second comes up to Hutton Hill Road. But anyways, I think, Jamie, you might have a motion there. We talked the other day about having something of that nature.
Through miracles, yes, I do. That in consideration of correspondence received on June 28, 2025 from residents of Hutton Hill respecting a request to lower the speed limit on Hutton Hill Road from 80 kilometers an hour to 50 kilometers an hour, council directs staff to bring forward a report on the request for speed reduction on Hutton Hill Road for council's consideration.
Tom, you can move that, Deputy Mayor. Okay, you have a seconder? Councillor Hutchison. That shouldn't get too confusing for you, should it? Hutchison and Hutchison, just interchange them one way or the other. Thank you, Jamie. You got a question, Jeff? Go ahead.
I'm not sure if we have a protocol on this, but would the correspondent be advised that we have taken this action? I would recommend that we just advise them that we have taken this action.
Okay. We haven't passed the motion yet, though, either. Go ahead.
It all
Joyce?
mentions, also mentions about a deer crossing. That be kind of incorporated into this, or is that just something that the public can put up in that area?
Michelle?
Thank you. Apparently, we did check and our public works have no recollection or have no data to say that they found a deer. So unless somebody picked it up on their travels, it wasn't one of our staff, but it's about broader safety. So absolutely, that will be taken into consideration.
Okay, we got the motion on the floor, moved and seconded. Let's get back. Any other questions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Uh, 9.2, there was 4 other pieces of correspondence, I believe, in the package. Is anyone, we want to move those all together, or we have anybody that wants to pull some of those for further conversation? Councillor Townsend.
Just wondering if we should pull 2, 3, and 4 for conversation. Let's see if we want to support them or not.
Right? Okay. Number 1 is fine. County agree comments on Bill 17. Correspondence from Prince Edward County regarding support advocacy federal government for disability without poverty. So we will do that. Doug, question?
Yeah,
Go
just,
ahead.
again, it's just letting the levels of government know that they need to, a lot of these people that are on, disability, those rates have not increased in quite a number of years. And I know from my own personal situation, with my wife going on that, there's no way you'd survive on what they're paying you. So doesn't even come close to a wage. So just wondering if we could support that.
You are making that motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Shea, Jeff? To support Prince Edward County, right?
Yeah.
Was it the county? Yeah. Motion on, have you got anything like that, Jamie? A little more formal than my ramblings, please.
Yes, 3 articles that in consideration of the correspondence, Council direct staff to send a letter of support for the resolution to the Prime Minister of Canada, the Federal Minister of Finance, the Federal Minister of Health, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and the Rural Ontario Municipal Association.
And Doug said he would move that. Jeffrey, that's okay to second that? Councillor Shea? Okay. Any further questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. The second one, town of Brantford, West Gwillimbury. Bradford? I said Brantford. This is Bradford. Yes. Doug, yeah, this one pull. Comment?
Yeah, again, it's similar to the last one. These are, Canadian veterans. They've served our country. They've, put their lives on the line to keep our country safe and well looked after. And again, it's another case where the federal government again is not funding them properly once they get out of the service, and some of them are falling on very desperate hard times, and it would help to support some of that again. So I would make a motion that we support that.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Through Reckles, yes, I do. That in consideration of the correspondence, council directs staff to send a letter of support for the resolution to the Prime Minister of Canada, the Minister of Veterans Affairs, the interim leader of the official opposition, the Member of Parliament for Bruce Grey Owen Sound, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Good. And Tom, Deputy Mayor Hutchison will second that. Any other comments, questions on this one? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, you're moving along very good, Doug. Township of Black River, Matheson. And this one's dealing with the fire marshal and the requirements.
And again, this goes back to a conversation we had with the fire chief here at our budget meeting, and all the added recommendations that have been or rules that are going to be enforced on them, and understanding that a lot of those recommendations and stuff is for the well-being and the health of the volunteer firefighters with the showers and trying to eliminate contamination and stuff like that. But from a municipal standpoint, it adds a lot onto our bottom line and a lot onto the volunteer fire department's budgets in order to implement all these regulations that are coming down the pipe. So again, I just thought it would be something that we could do to at least let the, provincial government know that this stuff's going to cost money, and they keep another, as you say, another form of downloading onto the local municipalities, and just making them aware of the costs that it's going to incur to rural municipalities that survive on volunteer firefighters.
Very good. Any motion for that, Jamie?
Through Reckles, yes, I do. That in consideration of the correspondence, council directs staff to send a letter of support for the resolution of the Fire Marshal of Ontario, the Premier of Ontario, the Solicitor General, the Member of Provincial Parliament for Bruce Grey Owen Sound, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Yeah. Move that, Doug. Yep. And Councillor Noon will second it. Any further comments or questions on that? I'll call the question. All those in favor? No opposed? That's carried. All right, those were the three that were pulled. And there's one more piece of correspondence there. We'll need a motion to receive that. That was from the county in their comments. Deputy Mayor Hutchison moved that. Councillor Forrester seconded to receive the remaining piece of correspondence. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Yeah, lost the agenda. Coming back quickly. That's it for correspondence. Move down to staff reports. 10.1, Manager of Parks and Recreation. Mike, welcome this morning, sir. You've got a report here dealing with facilities and community displays. Any further comments? Go ahead.
There you go. Thank you, Mayor Eccles. Yeah, so I just want to highlight community group proposed rotating a heritage display at the Durham Arena, and they've begun organizing the logistics. They were under the impression that an approval has already been granted. So staff is recommending permitting a temporary staff review display while formal policy is developed and brought to council. This interim solution supports community engagement without committing to long-term use or setting unintended precedent. The display will require staff content approval and proof of liability insurance before installation. My understanding is the group does have insurance, so that part of it is irrelevant at this point.
Okay, any further questions on this one? Doug, Councilor Hutchison.
Yeah, so with this policy that we're looking at making up, I just wondered how that fits in with in our arenas. As you know, we have display cases that display trophies and pictures of former athletes and so on. I'm just wondering, how does that fit into this protocol? Like, is that something we're going to look at? Who oversees that, and who makes the decision of what goes in? I know the minor sports are quite involved, but do we have any? Does the municipality have any say in the matter, because it is our facility? So how is that? What's oversight on that, I guess, is my question.
Through you, council. I do agree. I think that has been a procedure that's kind of just gone by the wayside. So I do think that a policy like this really does wrap that in, and also for other groups moving forward, it allows the municipality to really get hold of what is being displayed and make sure that it's in line with the values of council and of the municipality.
Councilor Shay, Jeff?
Well, I'm glad that you've come up with a short-term solution while we develop a long-term policy. That seems appropriate, and I support that. In terms of the long-term policy, displays in or on municipal facilities is what the policy will be addressing. Would that include things like signage at the dog park or signage at the Heritage Park at the end of the pedestrian bridge in Durham, where community groups have undertaken projects, installation or renovation projects, and as part of the project have erected signs honoring the supporters, the private sector supporters of these. And then we inherit these facilities. They become municipal facilities after the initial construction. And yet they continue to display all of this signage. Would that be part of what this policy would address? Or could it?
Through you, council, I do think that this is exactly what it should be capturing. A lot of the groups that are advertising on our, dog parks as such that you're suggesting, they do reach out to us in an informal way currently. But again, a formal policy really does allow council to make this decision.
Go ahead, Madam CEO.
Thank you. And just to follow up on that comment, Councillor Shay, some of that is advertising versus displays, and there is a difference, but I do think, as Manager Botelho said, they align directly. The other thing I think it needs to be included in this is there are revenue generating opportunities as well. And as a municipality, we have to be cognizant of groups who have or may have the potential to earn revenue around municipal facilities. And that needs to be addressed in that as well. Where does the revenue go? Should that be part of our fees and charges? And I don't want to sound overly bureaucratic here, but I think we fall in, and as Councillor Hutchison said, historically, some of this stuff has happened and it's fine until it's not. And we just have to be cognizant of precedent setting and that we're being fair and transparent to anybody who comes forward. So the standards are similar. So I think Manager Botelho bringing this forward will give us an opportunity to bring something forward to council so that you can consider and take all of those elements into consideration before we approve anything.
Go ahead, Doug. Councilor Hutchison.
I'm just curious with this, talking about signs and signage. Did we not talk about, do we not have a policy on signs, or we talked about creating something? Because this discussion before came up about signage on our ballparks and soccer fields and whatnot, and the revenue generated from that. So I remember having that discussion before, and I thought that was through like a sign policy or something that we were looking at the time. But we haven't got anything in that in that area, or this isn't conflicting with something else?
So thank you. I would need to update, it would have been before my time, but there's sign bylaws, there's advertising, there's public displays. So when this policy comes through, all of those things will be taken into consideration. So council has a fulsome understanding of all the implications, and we can we'll come forward with some recommendations, and council can make a decision based on all of that information. So thank you. And I will make a note that we will ensure that that is considered in any report we bring forward.
Councillor Forster.
Thank you. Will this community displays affect the agriculture societies with their fall fairs?
Through you, council, I don't think that this policy is, specific to any one group. I do think that, this policy would just be a very blanket policy. And again, currently the Ag Society, they work well with the municipality. They bring a lot of what they're going to do to our attention. So I don't foresee this being an issue. It's, again, as CAO Harris has said, it's just, finding that fundamental of what this process and policy should be. So I'm sorry if I'm not really directly answering your question, but this policy won't be for a specific group or omitting a specific group. It is just a blanket policy, if you will.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you. And we do, on the agricultural fall fairs, et cetera, there are some groups that we currently have memorandums of understanding. So if there are specificities related to one particular group, that can be addressed in that way. But I think it's really important, and I think we'll see this when we come to our fees and charges bylaw, naming one group and having a rate or a fee or something specific related to one group, I think doesn't make sense, but there's other ways we can address this. So that is very noted, and I've made note of it, Councillor Forster.
Okay. I think if I could from the chair, just to respond, Scott, this policy will be more about a permanent, the fall fairs, unless they're going to put in a display from one year to the next, but the fall fairs themselves, as Michelle said, we're a memorandum of understanding with that 4 or 5 days, 3, 4, whatever it is for the fall fair. They have the usage of the facility and put on the fall fair. That's, quite frankly, in my mind, would be covered under the rental agreement that we, the memorandum of understanding and or the rental of the facilities that the fall fairs are performing under. This would be more for a permanent display, whether it be 6 months or 60 years, where this one comes from. Mike?
Through you, yeah, you're exactly right, Mayor Eccles. As CAO Harris has said, there is going to be facets of an MOU that's going to take precedent of what they're doing. But this policy here is for exactly what you're saying. It's for set displays, whether they're for 6 months or I think you said 60 years, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We have a motion. Haven't had a motion on this one moved. There is a recommendation in the report. If somebody would like to move that, Deputy Mayor Hutchison and Councillor Townsend. Thanks, Doug. Okay, any further questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. All right. Oh, that is it. Thank you, Mike. 10.2, 10.2.1, fees and charges. Review. Seems like an update. Yeah. Tomato or tomato, right? Go ahead, Jamie, please.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles, and through you. This report has been prepared to outline recommended changes to fee amounts that, if approved, would be effective September 1, 2025. Each department has submitted a summary of its recommended changes to the current schedules of fees and charges, which has been attached to this report for ease of reference. User fees play a crucial role in the financial health and sustainability of municipal budgets. These fees, charged for specific services provided by the municipality, such as waste management, recreational facilities and programs, and administrative services, directly contribute to the overall revenue. One of the key advantages of user fees is their ability to offset the amount of tax dollars needed to fund the budget. User fees and charges are expected to generate approximately 16.7% of the municipality's 2025 operating budget. And while that number sounds good, in some neighboring municipalities, that percentage of user fees that are added or incorporated into that operating budget is somewhere in the range of 20% or greater. So the higher we can make that 16.7% number, the potentially lower the increase council may see with respect to the operating budget. So the list of fees for recommended changes are attached to the report, and each department is here to speak to their recommended fee changes if council has questions about those. So with that, I will turn it over to council for questions.
Any questions from any of the council members on the fee schedule? And or Councillor Hutchison? Doug?
Yeah, I understand where we're coming from, and it is important to recoup some costs for sure, especially when it comes to cover staff time and whatnot. My only concern is when I look at page 63 and it talks about shingles, drywall, porcelain is landfill, I guess, bulky items, furniture, $30 a piece for furniture. My concern is that with charging, can we continue to charge more and more for things to go into the landfill, that we're going to maybe see more and more of that stuff in the side of the road. Some people don't want to pay or can't afford to pay, sort of thing. And I understand that, but I mean, we also have to incentivize people to cut back on waste and not put their compost in their garbage and so on. But I worry a little bit about, as things go up, maybe we're going to see more and more people burning their garbage, which you see a little bit more in the country, which is the old way. We used to get rid of the garbage and you burn everything and throw the metal into another pile. So, yeah, it's that's my concern, is that we have to balance between how much we recoup and how much we're doing a service for the community. So that's one of the things I have a concern with in terms of landfill. I do have another question, which is another part, but I'll leave it there for a minute if someone else has any comments.
Is that one a question or that was just a comment?
It's more of a comment, I guess you would say.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Jeffrey, Councillor Shea.
Oh, sorry, maybe I'm still on.
The fees is a tricky issue, because while we all grumble about our property tax, a couple times a year, we grumble about how much it costs to go to the dump, every week. And so we keep getting reminded, bag tags have gone up again, and people notice these fees a lot. That said, it does seem the responsible thing to do to balance user fees versus generally applied taxes. My one specific question was an item related to waste called reinstate waste site permission after being banned, which sounds really specific. What sort of incident would cause someone to be banned? What process would they go through to have permission reinstated? And does this happen at facilities other than waste, like arenas? I know neighboring municipalities have had people banned from arenas. Is this only for waste sites where people are banned, or should this be applied to all municipal facilities? And what are the procedures that govern that?
Who wants to tackle that one? Michelle or Jeff? I see Nicole has joined us. Thank you. Michelle,
I'll start with the broad question related, we do, as council is aware, we have an R zone policy where we request that the public is respectful of staff and their patrons at public facilities and respectful of each other. We have had incidents at facilities beyond waste, very few, where we've had to put people on notice. Since my time here, I'm not aware of banning anyone from those other facilities. It is more a warning that we need to do that. So we have not at this point considered a reinstatement of allowing people back in, because I'm not aware since I've been here of that happening. So I will let either Nicole or Jeff speak to what happens, particularly at the landfill.
Nicole?
Thank you for the question. The example is taken from research amongst some other municipalities, and it's more of a deterrent. It's not something that's often enforceable. Like I said, more of a deterrent because it does cost money administratively to determine these sorts of things. So like I said, it's there as a deterrent, and it's council's decision to include this or not.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'll take any further discussion of this offline.
Jamie.
Thank you, Miracles. And through you, and before I continue, I did forget to mention that there was a typo in one of the sections contained within the recommended summary of proposed fees. For minor ball, it states in the current bylaw $1,400 per season, and there was a typographical error that notes $1,400 and $1,470 rather per day, which is not correct. The proposal is per season. It's just making that minor shift in the draft bylaw that's included with the report. It does state correctly $1,470 per season, but I just wanted to bring that to council's attention and note that that would be corrected moving forward.
Thank you. I'm going to go with Councillor Noon. Joyce?
Thank you. Just for clarification, under the Durham Town Hall, they have a rental rate for seniors of $367.50 annually. Under the Norby Centennial Hall for the seniors, they're charging them $36.75 per rental. If I do the math, if it's monthly rate for the facility in Durham, it works out to $30.63. So I'm just kind of wondering why that's not being treated consistently, like for senior groups, why the rates aren't being administered the same.
Thank you. This is a historic document, especially for recreation fees. My understanding is some of these fees and agreements stem back to amalgamation, and that this is historically what has always been done. So particularly in the recreation fee, staff have already identified that it is probably ideal moving forward that we come back to council perhaps next year with a recommended and perhaps updated framework on how we assess fees. There's some very specific things in here where we're naming particular groups get a certain rate. In this case, the fees that we're seeing proposed here for recreation particularly are recommending fee increases just to capture inflation, but it would be our recommendation that we look at the entire framework for recreation fees, particularly to make this more in alignment across the entire municipality and not treating one group, one hall, one specific facility different than any other.
Joyce?
Well, then I'd like to recommend then that the consistency be provided to all our West Grey residents. Therefore, I feel the senior citizens group in Normanby should be charged at the same monthly rate at the $30 versus the 36. I feel there should be better fairness to all West Gray residents.
Thank you. I was just informed by our treasurer that historically that $35 per rental, the assumption was made that there were 10 rentals per year, which equates to $350 per year. That is not specified in this document, but historically that was how it was assessed. We can either provide clarity or we can put the annual rate, I'm assuming, in this, just so that it's clear.
Again, just because they only use it 10 times versus 12 is still not a fair rate, rental rate. It should still be treated at $30.63, whatever. I just, they're actually saving, not using that facility, so they should be treated the same.
And it is the same. It's the senior rate that shows the annual is a 10-time rate. So that's $35 per use. So it is the same rate. It's just one is stated on a 10 rental basis and the other is stated on a per rental basis. So it is the same rate. It's just, again, how it was described in there. So there would be no change. We can change it so it will say the same 35 per rental rate, but it is the same rate. It's just one stated differently.
So for clarification, then the Durham rentals are just 10 times a year, not 12. Okay, I was getting mixed up when you're talking about Normie or. Okay, but yeah, I think it'd be better if someone's looking at the fees, that the fee specifically is the same for both. Thank you.
And if I could add, part of my memory is the two clubs were different in how they wanted to do it. The Durham Seniors Club that uses the Durham Town Hall said they didn't want to be billed monthly or anything. They'd just pay a flat rate for the year for 10 rentals. The Ayton or Normanby Seniors Club said that they wanted to stay at a monthly rental because there was on occasions in the wintertime where it got canceled. So if we paid it on a yearly fee and we didn't use it, we'd already paid. Yeah, so it's trying to get two groups together sometimes is more difficult. Go ahead, Joyce.
So in response to that, though, then showing it as billed as needed would be better than paying the annual, but I get it. The other group wants to pay it annually
Once.
just so they only have to pay it once, but it's just for clarity.
Yep. Jamie, and then I want to go to Doug.
So through Mayor Eccles to Councillor Noon, if it's your intent to have the fee changed from that per year rate to a per rental rate, I do have a motion to that effect, but I'll take direction from council on that as to whether or not you want to introduce that.
I can't really make a recommendation to that based on the fact of one wanting to pay it annually and one wanting to pay it as goes. So just for clarity, maybe in brackets somewhere it is, the same rental rate in both. I don't know, for direction.
We can probably add there's a note at the end or something like that for a little bit of clarity for you. Doug?
Thank you. And again, a lot to what Councillor Noon was saying. I noticed in the rates is we don't have a lot of consistency across our halls and stuff, but I think that's what Madam CAO was saying, that hopefully next year we'll see maybe a little different document where you've got the Durham Town Hall at a daily rental rate of 115 and you've got the Normanby Centennial Hall at a rate of 199. So, where's the consistency? Where's the across all the halls? And as I say, I think as Madam CEO noted too, there's a special rates in here for specific groups and stuff like that, that maybe we should get some get it a little more level across the entire playing field. We are one municipality now. We have been for 20 some years. I think it's time we got it sorted out. But if I could go back to our friends at the landfill site. Just wondering about the charge for brush under 10 centimeters. Currently, there's no charge for that. And they're looking at implementing a $10 minimum charge for that. My concern with that is it's small stuff. Do we want people burning this in their backyards and potentially causing possible fire? Like, how else are they going to dispose of this stuff if we have a storm blow through and they've got some limbs down and whatnot? How are they going to dispose of this stuff? Do they, does everybody just pile it in their own backyards and burn it? Or is it just better that we take the small stuff to the dump? It just, I'm afraid of potential fires, and as Councillor Hutchinson said here, we're almost, as much as we're trying to get people into recycling and doing better for the environment, we're almost forcing them by putting fees on everything to go back to the old burn barrels in the backyard, back corner of your lot, and burn all your waste. So what are we doing? Are we trying to encourage them to bring it to a central point where it can be disposed of safely, or do it in their backyard where it's not safely?
Maybe add into that question, what do we use the brush for? How is it disposed at the landfill? Director Aiken. Yeah.
Yeah, through your worship, Councilor Townsend, your point is well taken. The issue in front of us is the brush is ground up and used as cover material, which is the cheapest way we can generate cover. The challenge is the current brush pile. Last time I got this size, it was like $30,000 to grind it. So as the clerk pointed in his report, we're trying to recoup some of the costs, not all of it, by implementing a user fee. The minimum user fee, I think it was relatively minor compared to what it costs for us to actually operate the landfill. That's the basic ration. It's to offset the cost of burning.
So the grinder grinds the wood. If I could from the chair, the question then is, do we use a very small grinder for the small stuff and have to get a big grinder, or is it one grinder that's there? I guess my question is, what is the difference between greater than 10 and less than 10 when it comes to the grinder? And we need the stuff to be able to use, as you just said, the most cost effective for our cover. Because if we don't do that, then we've got to open up another gravel pit to bring in cover. There's a large cost to that. Anyways, I just, what's the difference between grinding something that's 5 inches and grinding something that's half an inch?
So,
Cool.
thank you. When we have larger materials come in, you tend to introduce the risk of bringing in some stumps, which sometimes have rocks attached, and that is risk to the grinding material. The grinder that comes in is a very large piece of equipment, which is very expensive to operate. And the smaller material runs through that piece of equipment much more easily. And when that piece of equipment is on site, it's there for approximately 3 to 4 days. Like I said, that smaller material flies through that equipment much quicker. The larger pieces go through there little more difficultly. So we have to charge a little bit more for it. We don't take things like stumps just because of that reason. And it's a little bit more difficult to manage. So the operator of that equipment has to watch his equipment more carefully.
So you've just said it right there, and it's in here, it's clean. The stump that's got stones and dirt and everything else isn't clean, so it wouldn't be accepted. So I'm
The
going
definition,
further. Yeah.
sorry, the definition of clean and contaminated, I'm not sure where that came from. That was long before my time. I was recently at a tour of a large landfill site where they were using the shredded wood as cover material, and it was a significant difference in how the cap of that landfill looked. The smell was a massive difference. It's a very nice alternative to cover material. And when you have it right there on site, it's a great alternative. So if we can use that material, I think it's a great option.
The brush material,
And the wood that we have on site.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying, is that we've used that for a number of years, so ours should be that way anyways, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having that fee for it offsets the cost of having that piece of equipment come in.
Joyce, please.
Well, a few questions. My understanding was always anything the brush, 4 inches and under. Do we not burn anymore at our landfill sites?
Yes, we do have a permit to burn that, and the smaller material is burned when it's safe to do so.
Okay, so that looks after the 4 inch and under. My understanding always was 4 inch and over. There was the fee because of the shredding. Also, the contaminated wood, which is, so we're not looking at the clean wood, which is our trees and our brush. We're looking at contaminated, which is taken from the trees and made for building, for construction. The waste from that then is brought to the landfill site. Now that's contaminated wood. That has nothing to do with the trees and the brush, correct?
Sorry, if you could just repeat.
Like you've got decking, you've got leftover 2x4s when the contractors are building, like you've got all that waste. All those types of wood is usually treated in some way to preserve longer. The waste from that then is brought to the landfill site. That's contaminated, correct? And that's also shredded, correct?
Yes, anything
Okay.
that is not a natural limb, essentially.
Okay, so I guess when it comes down to it, no matter if it's small brush or anything over 4 inches and the contaminated, like that's 3 different things. Now we're going to charge a fee for everything just because of the handling and what needs to be done. Just for clarification. Thank you.
Sir Townsend, Doug.
Thank you. Go back to a point that was made though. So if we're going to start charging for the small brush and whatnot to come into the landfill site, we have a drastic reduction in the amount of, because we're charging for it now, we end up with a drastic reduction in the amount of limbs and stuff that are brought to the landfill site. In turn, because we're charging to offset what it costs to grind, but then if we don't have that material to grind, what are we going to spend as a municipality to buy cover to put on the landfill site? Like the way I look at it, the residents, by bringing their brush and allowing us to grind it up and put it on the landfill site, are doing us a favor, as opposed to us having to buy cover to put on the landfill to, again, yeah. Where are we going to get the cover then to put on the landfill if we don't have the brush?
Jeff.
Yeah, through your worship, Councilor Townsend, we feel the minimum charge is set at a level to try to avoid that concern. We share your concern, and that's why we did what we perceive to be a lower minimum charge, is the bulk of the charge will be at the minimum. You don't want to anticipate unless you're showing up one having a big trailer actually getting to a full per ton charge. So we share your concern and we try to be considerate of that when we set the minimum.
Counselor Shay, wait in, I'll get you, Joyce.
So if we didn't have a minimum and it's $10 per ton, and I come in and I've got one branch, because there was a big storm last night and that one branch came down, there was no minimum. It would be a fraction of the $10 because it only weighs like, 2 kilograms. So it'd be like 50 cents for me to bring that branch in. I would suggest that we eliminate the fee for brush under 10 centimeters clean and leave that at 0, just so that it's not one of those constant irritants. It happens to all of us. If there's a storm, one little branch comes off, I put it in my trailer or the back of the trunk of my car, I take it to the dump. And now they're going to start saying, it used to be free. Now they're going to start saying, oh, you owe us $10. It's like, I would swear to myself in my head. So I'm going to move that we reduce that or leave that at 0.
Okay. Go ahead. You're anxious there. Yeah.
Thank
Please,
you,
Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Councillor Shay. So I have that in consideration for staff report 2025 fees and charges review. Council directs staff to change the rate of brush/wood under 10 centimeters in diameter clean from $10 per 1,000 kilograms minimum $10 charge to no charge. Does that capture it?
I'm going to see if somebody will second it first and then jump in. All right. Councillor Townsend, Scott. Make your
Right, my
amendment.
question about that item is, there'd only be no charge if the only thing on their load was small brush under that size. If they had other garbage, there would still be a charge.
That was a question. I think we're just looking for clarification there. Jeff or Nicole? Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
That would be my understanding that if you set 1 and 0 and you came with something else that was a different line in here, it doesn't automatically make a bulk over. Your landfill attendants expect to look from them. You have to be reasonable. So if we set that at 0, we still have other waste that didn't turn the line out, that charge would still apply.
Okay. Joyce.
But for clarity again, if branches, but they still have items or like wood on bigger branches with 10 inches or 4 inches or more, you would charge the whole load at a $10 charge because they are mixing it now, the different sizes. 50, yeah. Correct?
Yes, if you showed up with a little that, a piece of brush or wood that was greater than 10 centimeter bunches, then yes, the minimum charge of $15 would apply. I would suggest if you had a piece of brush that was greater than 4 inches, you probably more than one, you probably have several. Even if you did have some of the branches that would think that's the 4 inches, so you'd be surprised if you're showing up just one piece. One of the old brush that was greater than 4 inches.
Councillor Hutchison. Doug.
Yeah, I agree with the fact of, I think by allowing us to bring in, like small brush from your yard, especially people in town, like myself, I do take brush from trimming trees and whatnot to the landfill. I think it's a service that we provide. I just can't find it right now, but we still do not charge for compost material like yard waste in bags and that type of thing, leaves. I don't remember running across that, but there's no charge for that still. Is that correct?
There is no composting program other than our backyard composters at the moment, which are for sale here at the municipal office. Yes,
But-
well, that's true.
Yeah, the yard waste that's in bags that people bring in, like leaves and plants and stuff like that, that's still acceptable at no charge, right? Right.
Yes, that is correct. And it'll be our office to confirm, yes.
Okay. I do have one other question, if I may. This has to do with ice, marina ice rental. Oh, sorry, we haven't finished that one.
My mistake. Thank you, Jamie, for keeping us. Yeah. All right. The motion on the floor is to go with brush and wood under 10 centimeters or less. Stay it where it is at no charge. Right? Everybody's clear on that? No other questions on it? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. Doug, next question.
Right, under ice rental, page get page number here. Page 64. Spring ice, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It says it used to be $100 plus HST. Now it's fee redundant. So I'm presuming that that is because above that there's summer ice, April 1st to September 30th. There's a charge of 173 going up to 181.65. So is that why that we're taking that out, which is basically non-prime time summer ice is going to be at the same rate as prime time? Is that correct? Is that what that looks like?
Through you, Counselor Hutchinson, you're exactly correct. The two charges, they overlap each other, so.
So my thoughts on that are when we have spring ice, for example, in Ayton, which is like that April 1st to May 31st time period. I still think it's important that we keep our rates low. I know myself and my group and some others from other areas come to the area because the ice rate rental is cheaper when it's non-prime. Whereas if we put it up to prime time, the ice is there, it costs us the same to keep it running, whether anybody's using it or not, like in terms of the ice, other than to have someone around. So my thoughts are it would be nice to continue to have a non-prime rate during spring ice because potentially you could get other people from other communities. And I know we have people from other communities come to use our facilities when we have cheap rates. So that's my thoughts on that. I'm not sure if that applies in this case.
Thank you. Your comments are very well taken. This brings up a considerable point. Our spring ice is putting huge pressure on the infrastructure. And while we can say it's less expensive and it would be great to use it, I think we're going to be butting in very soon to the question, can we afford to keep it? Because it's putting huge pressure on the systems to keep ice in. The other comment related, and I think if we come back with recreation recommended fees for council consideration for next season, bringing people from other communities means that if we aren't recovering full costs and we are actually bonusing taxpayers from other municipalities and paying that burden on our ratepayers. So there's a lot of things that it's not quite as simple about using capacity if it's there. I think we're going to have some discussions. Can we afford to keep this capacity? Because as we start to look at our asset management and our systems, we're going to be butting up into some other considerations that council will need to be thinking about.
And I just comment to that. I think that the spring ice, that price tag came from the Durham Arena from years ago. Durham used to keep the ice in until May, and the summer ice was Ayton. Ayton took theirs out. When lacrosse has really become big time, Durham quit spring ice time, and that was a specific for the Durham facility at that point. Now Durham takes the ice out before springtime. Ayton has actually tried to pick that up, and I'm certainly with Michelle, should do some type of analysis of what that is and whatnot. And Durham used to take the ice out in May, and of course, Ayton put it back in. We've changed that since, as I said, since lacrosse has really picked up, and so it's time to take a look at it. We can look at it. We can put it in here at this point, but it's almost redundant for the fact that we're going to take an overall look of this. So by next spring, we could have a better handle on what that price actually should be. Doug.
And we're really talking about two different animals here when I think of it now. The spring ice, which is now in Ayton, you have non-prime time. The summer ice that's in Ayton later on when they have it's the hockey school. So you have user groups that like spring school or the summer hockey school for kids that are out of school. So there isn't a demand for the use during the spring ice that you would get in the summer ice, basically is what I'm saying. So that's something to consider, I think, when we're looking at this, is who's really using that ice in the springtime on non-prime time. And it's usually like old guys like myself who are playing hockey that it would be available during the day, right? Versus kids that are available during the day in the summertime. Right, there's two different things. So anyways, just something to keep in mind when we're looking at the programs. So yeah.
Yes, and those old time guys are usually, still building up their profile to the NHL draft. It's coming
That's
up
right.
in June.
There's always
right?
that
That's
hope.
why they're there for spring ice.
Yeah.
I think it will be something certain to be looked at. We're cognizant that the staff's got that. Okay. Anything else on these? Seeing as I did have one question on, and it is dealing with ice time rentals. Primetime ice, 6 a.m. to whatever. But then there's another one down at the bottom, 18 plus tournaments, all included at $130. And that includes the hall. I get the kind of the idea of where that's going, but quite frankly, if I really wanted to be somebody, I would say, yeah, I'm hosting a tournament. Yep. And it is from it's not a long tournament. This one, it's only going to be a couple of hours. So I'm taking 2 hours of tournament time on a Thursday evening from 6 until 8 o'clock at $130 instead of the primetime ice at 140. Is there, I don't, usually those tournaments would have been on a Saturday, which would be hugely prime time. That's a fairly good discount. Am I right on that, or again, is it redundant? Because I can't remember the last time we had an 18 plus. An 18 plus, does that take in under 21? I'm going to go back to my historical and say that's a juvenile tournament. We run the juvenile tournament. Would that be an 18 plus tournament or a minor hockey tournament? Mike.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Eccles, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think it goes back to the original comment where this document here is to capture the inflation costs and then the details of all of these little specific time slots and specific rentals where there's opportunities to circumvent the system, as you're saying, to eliminate those and do a wholesome review. I think it's in the best interest. I think everyone here is seeing the benefit of that. So as CAO Harris has said, that would be the most prudent way to go.
Very good. Okay. Now, unless Councillor Hutchison and some of his famed hockey players are going to do a spring tournament, we'll go along with that. Okay. I think I'm gonna summarize. This is to capture, it's been 2 years since these have been updated and whatnot. They are slightly out of whack. There are a few things in there that need more specific attention, and we will do that on a more, and I think that's what you were looking at, Jamie, was more on an annual basis instead of it being 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, and we're way out of whack and we need to go up 15%. That is not conductive to good public acceptance if we do those things. So, okay, there's nothing else. I think that covers it. Or do we need, no, I guess we need a recommendation to accept the rest. Okay, go ahead. Jamie.
Yes, through you, Mayor Eccles, if council doesn't have any other questions or comments on any of the fees, then the next motion that we would need is that in consideration of the report, council directs staff to provide notice of the municipality's intention to repeal fees and charges bylaw 2023-064 and replace it with a revised bylaw as outlined in this report, and bring forward a revised fees and charges bylaw for council's consideration based on the direction provided at today's meeting.
Okay. Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Deputy Mayor and Hutchison and Councillor Noon. Any further questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Good, that is carried. Jamie, your second report, 10.2.2.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mayor Eccles, this report is on the appointment of a council representative to the West Grey Police Services Board. So the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 provides that a board shall consist of the head of council unless the head chooses not to serve on the board. If the head of council chooses not to serve in the police board, an additional council member must be appointed by resolution. Mayor Eccles has resigned from the West Grey Police Services Board, and as such, an additional member of council must be appointed. So with that, what we would be looking for is some sort of nomination for an additional member of council to be appointed to the board. There is attached to the report a nominations and elections of members to boards and committees procedure for council to use should there be multiple nominations. And even if there's just one nomination, the mayor would have to go through a process of soliciting those nominations, closing the nominations, and then moving forward and potentially having a vote if there should be interest from more than one council member. So at this point in time, I would turn it over to you, Mayor Eccles, for nominations so we can get this underway.
Okay. All right. Do I have anybody to be nominated? Joyce, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Doug Townsend to the, as an appointment to the Police Services Board.
All right, thank you. In that process, do I need a seconder? I'll just read it here. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Don't need that. All right. Okay. I'll accept that. Councillor Townsend nominated. Any other nominations? Jeffrey?
Well, I was going to say that Doug and yourself, myself and Joyce have all had a chance to serve on the police board. And so I was going to look to the other three council members to see if there would be another candidate, and was prepared to nominate Councillor Hutchison if he was interested in the position as one of our longest serving council members.
Councillor Hutchison.
Interesting thought. But my thoughts are, since we're only a year and a half or whatever away from the end of a term, it might make more sense to have someone who has already had the experience. So it's not such a big learning curve, like for myself. I'm sure there'll be some things to learn to get there, and I'm not sure what the qualification, or not qualification, but the learning, the training that you would have to do to get there. So it might make sense just to have someone that's already been there. It may be an easier fit for now, but thanks for the opportunity. There are the thoughts, Jeff, but I think I'll decline.
Okay. All right. Any other nominations? Counselor Townsend, you will accept that for nomination?
Yes, I would accept that nomination and thank my nominator.
Okay. That's it. Really? Wow. I'm only at 9 and we've got 16 points here you've got for me. I'm a slow reader.
Through Eccles, I think if there are no further nominations from council, then we can move to the next step, which would be the motion stage. So based on there being no further nominations and Councillor Townsend accepting that nomination as the member-elect, the motion would be that in consideration of staff report appointment of council representative to the West Grey Police Services Board, council appoints Councillor Townsend to the West Grey Police Services Board effective immediately.
Somebody to move that. Councillor Forrester and Councillor Noon. Moves that Councillor Townsend be appointed to the West Grey Police Services Board. This, I can make one comment that will get us up to the province at this point in time. Has 2 provincial appointees on our Police Services Board. Neither of them are filled right at the present moment, leaving the board very precarious to being able to have quorum to conduct meetings. And the reason for my resignation is that there is an inspector of policing is doing an investigation on a comment that I made last summer that went through the integrity commissioner and other reports. But the inspector of policing has not, and until they give a ruling on that, I'm not eligible to be on the board. And it was supposed to be out a month before Christmas, but I didn't indicate or ask the question which Christmas they were talking about. So at this point in time, to be able to have the board be able to conduct their duties and whatnot, I've taken the option of stepping down and having somebody that can serve, and we can have good governance actions with the board. So thank you. Question, the motion is on the floor. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Very good. You want to take 5? Deputy Mayor thinks we should take 5. He needs a coffee or coffee filled or stretch his leg or something. All right, we'll take 5. 10:35. That'll give us 7 minutes. We'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you, Ash. That brings us down to number 11 on the agenda. Questions? At this point, do we have any questions that were on the from previous meetings? Sorry, Joyce, go ahead. Councillor Noon.
Maybe you didn't want me to ask the question. Okay, again, at our May 20th council meeting under 10.4.1, options to manage aggregate extraction in West Gray, a motion for staff was done to look for options for RFP to retain a consultant. At our June 3rd meeting, I asked the status of the RFP options, and at that time was informed that time didn't permit to have it done. And I asked if it could be ready for the 17th, and they said probably not, but hopefully for today's meeting, July the 8th. I noticed it wasn't on today's agenda, so I was just kind of wondering the status again on that RFP proposal.
Thank you. I spoke to our Director of Development about that. It will be on the August 12th meeting.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Seeing none. Motions for which notice was previously given. I don't think we've had any. Notice a motion. Any notice of motions? Announcements? Any announcements that council have? Different things might be happening or have happened? Go ahead, Scott.
Right. Last Wednesday, July the 2nd, at our Elmwood Community Center Board meeting, the Elmwood Homecoming 2024 gave us a very generous donation with some criteria of projects they wanted to go towards. So that will help us out with a lot of projects around the Ball Diamond and the Lions Park.
Very good. Anything else? Joyce?
Thank you. On July 25th, 26th, and 27th, the Friends of Ayton and the Ayton Lions Club will again be hosting our annual family ball tournament. So we have 16 teams registered, and it's a great social time for the community and anyone interested in watching some good old family baseball. Thank you.
Excellent. Doug? Councilor Hutchison.
On August 16th, the BIA is putting on a Saugeen Sun Fest, and which people, there's a website if you're interested in some details. There's going to be a car show, musical entertainment. That's at the Riverside Park in Durham. So sounds like a good day, lots of events, and so hopefully people will come out. And maybe Tom's going to share something about the airport's special event.
That's August the 16th? Yep. Some of us will be going to AMO that day, so might not be able to attend. Go ahead, Tom.
Through you to Councillor Hutchinson. Yes, July 26th is the Ayton Family Ball Tournament weekend. It is also the Durham Fighters Golf Tournament. And it is also the Saugeen Municipal Airport Barns to Beaches Battle of the Bands, if you will. It's that, and I believe the Durham Lions are have stepped up to run the festivities of the beverages. I will go with that, but yeah, I believe that goes for later in the afternoon, but it goes right into 3, 4, 5 hours of Battle of the Bands. But there's tickets, I believe, are on Eventbrite, but I will be at the Family Ball Tournament, so I have a team in there. Thank you.
You'll be off the IR by that time? Jeff, Councillor Shea.
I was pleased to attend with many of you the swearing-in ceremony of the new chief of police last Wednesday here in the chambers. Very significant event and marked a what? Passing of the torch. Thank you. So sword, technically, literally a sword got passed.
Anything else? Councillor Townsend?
Just like to say a tip of the hat to the Durham West Grey Lions Club for their Canada Day celebrations that they put on here in Durham. It was very well attended, and the entertainment in the afternoon with the Mudman was very well received, and it went over very well.
Fabulous function. You want to say praiseful, Councillor Hudson? Yeah. Yeah, on Canada Day, I did have the privilege of being at a number. We started out the day in Dundalk for Southgate. They have fireworks celebrations or Canada Day celebrations, not fireworks, Canada Day, starting at noon with the junction connection there that does quite a good job. Holstein has had a car show and then fireworks display, which I didn't get to the fireworks display. Priceville attended there and brought greetings with the community group that Stoddard Hall Committee, or the Priceville Improvement Committee, I think is this the correct name. Thank you, Doug. That were there, and then yes, spent a bit of time at the Durham ballpark where the West Grey Lions put on a pretty good show with Bouncy Castle, the Mudman, and Blake Wilson, a couple of other great performers throughout the day, and then fabulous fireworks display in the evening. So West Grey definitely showed our patriotism and loyalty to our country July 1st. So it was wonderful. One thing, the book, and the book is out. I was given one this morning. Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Canadian Plowing Championships 2025, Ayton, Ontario, August 27th to the 29th, in and around a few of the farms. And it's not just Normanby, it's not the Grey County, it's not the Ontario. These are the Canadian Plowing Championships, are held right here in West Grey this year, August 27th to the 29th, and great for the group that has put it on. The Normanby Plowmen are the hosts and doing all the work of getting it up. From what I understand, there will be at least 20 to 25 competitors that have qualified or are qualifying for the Canadian Championships. And from across Canada, there'll be plowmen coming in. And this gives you the chance, the Canadian Championships, to qualify for the World Championships, which a number of years ago, not that long ago, Jay Lennox qualified, who is a West Grey resident down south of Ayton, qualified for the World Championships and plowed in Kenya, wasn't it? I think it was Kenya. Yeah, I know it was in Central Africa. Anyways, he had the opportunity of going there and representing Canada. So hence, kind of an exciting time. It may not be as big as the international plowing match that's coming up in 2026, but there'll be better plowmen there at this one here in West Grey. Okay, that's it for announcements. Anything else? There is no closed session. So that must bring us down to bylaws. And we have bylaws 17.1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can pass those in one motion, or does anyone have, any council member have an opinion to pull one of those? Then I'll take a motion to move the 5 bylaws as presented. Moved by Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Any questions or comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And with all the agenda items completed, I'll declare